just now ask Rob to talk about the K-12 situation, and then Carol will talk about the framework that she's developing with the federal government.
Thank you very much, Premier, and I want to thank, in his absence and in advance of his news conference this afternoon, Minister Adrian Dix and our Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Henry. They were instrumental in what I'm about to announce on behalf of the Ministry of Education, and they've shown tireless leadership and good advice. As the Minister of Education, one of my responsibilities is to make sure that kids and staff and families involved in the school communities are kept as safe as possible in all of our communities right across British Columbia. We're used to schools being safe places where kids learn and grow and socialize. But as the global pandemic, COVID-19, is evolving quickly and it's having a growing impact in British Columbia, we have to take action today to protect our students and staff and keep our schools safe. So the actions that we're announcing today are ones that are well thought out. They're supported by all of the education partners, teachers, and stakeholders in the system. Since COVID-19 was first discovered abroad, the Ministry of Education has been in near daily communication with public health officials in school communities to provide accurate and timely information from trusted sources. We've followed the direction daily of public health officials and scientists in making fact-based decisions when it comes to BC's school system, and we continue to do that. Today, under the direction of the Provincial Health Officer, we are directing all schools to immediately suspend in-class instruction until further notice. Today, more than 99% of students in most public school districts are already on spring break this week, with the exception of Nechako Lakes. Spring break starts for those students tomorrow. There are a small number of independent schools also not on break yet. They are being directed now to suspend in-class instruction. We've urged schools and school districts to begin planning now to ensure a continuity of learning while in-class instruction is suspended in BC schools indefinitely. I have tasked my ministry to work with our education partners to coordinate these initiatives. We also expect school districts and independent schools will have plans in place to maintain some level of service for children of people who are performing essential services on the front line to combat COVID-19. People like teachers, medical health professionals, first responders, and pharmacists. Teachers will be prepared to plan for continuity of learning when their respective spring breaks were originally scheduled to end. That's March 30th. We will continue to work in consultation with our education partners as we plan how we will provide ongoing education services. We'll be in frequent contact with school districts and independent school authorities to ensure that we work through this challenge together and to look for best practices as plans are developed. I want to reassure parents and students, every student will receive a final mark. All students who are on track to move to the next grade in the fall will do so. For grades 10 and 11 students, graduation assessments will be postponed. I know that parents of students in grade 12 will have unique concerns. Every student eligible to graduate grade 12 this year will graduate. The only graduation assessment required for grade 12 students is grade 10 numeracy assessment. Most of grade 12 students currently have fulfilled that requirement. The Ministry of Education, however, will work to ensure that all grade 12 students who have not yet completed this assessment and who are otherwise on track to graduate are able to meet this graduation requirement. The Ministry is also working very closely with post-secondary institutions to ensure that graduating students will transition successfully and smoothly next year. We also understand that there are vulnerable students in the education system who have unique needs. There are important services like meal programs and childcare services operating on school grounds that will need to be addressed. Schools are already considering these issues in their planning while we work together through these extraordinary times. We know some school districts will face unique challenges. We're prepared to meet those challenges together with our education partners, schools, school districts, teachers, teaching assistants, school boards, superintendents, and students. That includes consulting with our education partners as we plan for ongoing learning, and we will continue frequent contact with school districts to ensure we work through this together as plans are developed. We don't have all the answers today. We're in a fast-moving situation. As COVID-19 evolves, we must work together to meet the needs of students and school communities. Parents and guardians are asked to talk to their children about what is happening in their school community. Let kids know the steps that have been announced today. Let them know that they're designed to best protect them and to protect the people most vulnerable to COVID-19. Elders, seniors, their grandparents, people like that in our community. The decision to suspend in-classroom learning was not made lightly. It was made with the support of all school districts, teachers, partners and stakeholders, and under the direction of the provincial health officer. I want to thank our education community who today and always put children first. This is a very challenging time in BC and around the world. Please take the necessary preventative measures to keep you and your families safe. If you think you have symptoms, the Ministry of Health has developed an online self-assessment tool. You can find it at covid19.thrive.health. You can complete the assessment for yourself or on behalf of someone else, or you can call 811 to pre-arrange health testing if you have symptoms. The actions we're taking today are temporary. We will return to regular school life down the road. In the meantime, look out for one another. And remember, we have to act together if we're to prevent the spread of COVID-19 further. Thank you.
I'm going to begin by echoing the theme that you've heard from the Premier and that you heard from the Minister of Education as well, which is we're all in this together. And that really is the focus we're taking when it comes to an economic plan and an economic strategy for British Columbia as well. First and foremost, we're focused on people's health and safety. Protecting people, following Dr. Henry's advice, is the very best way we can protect our province and our communities and our economy. We also need to make sure that any actions we take are in concert with our federal partners. And as all of you know, this situation is constantly evolving. And so our response to support for business, people, and the economy is going to have to evolve with it. British Columbia has a strong economic foundation, but there is no question that COVID-19 will have global impacts, and of course, British Columbians will have impacts. Our economy in BC will be impacted. Over the coming days and weeks, I'm going to keep you updated on the fiscal and economic situation. We're also talking with our colleagues across the country, with experts and business leaders right here in British Columbia to really understand how these impacts are starting to unfold. I'm sure all of you, as we have heard from workers who are in precarious situations, small businesses who wonder if they're going to be able to survive, whether they're going to keep their doors open, and to all those people who are concerned, businesses, communities, people in our communities, I want to reassure you and let you know that we are working on how we can and how we must respond in the immediate. We'll also be looking to the future, but right now we're looking at how we support you in the immediate because we know there are challenges in our province. British Columbians can be assured that government has your back. Together we're going to get through this. And I think we all have to remember as well that this is a marathon, not a sprint. There are 3 streams that we're working on and that we're committed to as part of our economic strategy. The first one is to make sure that we have services and supports in place to protect the health and safety of British Columbians. Second, we're working with the federal government and with their initiatives to bring in immediate relief for people and businesses. And third, we will be building BC's plan for economic recovery in collaboration with the business community. I also want to recognize the remarkable work of Dr. Henry and Minister Dix and the hardworking healthcare workers and providers and supporters across our province. We know that the best economic plan we can have is to deal with the health and safety of people, and that's why that comes first. Now, you all will have heard the federal announcement of $1 billion for COVID-19 support, and the discussions about how and when that's going to be flowing to British Columbia are still in progress. They're still ongoing. The Prime Minister has stated that there will be an announcement in details tomorrow on how the Government of Canada's economic plan is going to respond to this crisis. You will know that one of the announcements already out there is that the federal government is speeding up the process for employment insurance. But as the Premier has said, our government is also strongly advocating for extending EI, extending the employment insurance program for people who wouldn't typically qualify. So that would include self-employed, part-time, contractors, and we're certainly hoping that we're going to hear that confirmation tomorrow. We're also collaborating with the business community to formulate the longer-term plan. We're looking at the immediate, but we also want to make sure we're looking at the longer-term plan because we do know that our province is going to move into recovery mode. but we're not there yet. And we need to act accordingly. We need to, as has been said by the Minister of Education, heed the advice of Dr. Henry and the Provincial Health Office about the steps we all need to take to care for ourselves and to care for others. I also want to reassure British Columbians that we have a healthy supply chain, that we have appropriate supplies of food and goods coming into British Columbia. The Premier and I had discussions with the Retail Council this morning, and they've assured us again that there's enough in stock right now for everyone. There isn't any need to overstock your own supplies. Doing so will put at risk seniors, single parents, and others who need those necessities. Shop well, plan ahead, but please don't go overboard at other people's expenses. So just to wrap up, I want to finish up again with a commitment that you're going to be hearing over the days and weeks to come. We're committed to working with our partners across the country and working with everyone in the province to be able to weather the pandemic. We're going to remain focused, as I said, on 3 clear priorities: supporting services to protect the health and safety of people, working with the federal government initiatives to bring in our own immediate relief for people and businesses, and building BC's plan for economic recovery in collaboration with the business community. Thank you.
Okay, so Jen, off we go.
Thanks, everyone. We do have limited time today, so we are going to have one question, no follow-ups, unless there's time permitting at the end. We'll start in the room and then go to the phones. Just a reminder for people on the phone, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *1. We'll start with Keith.
So the Employment Standards Act needs amending, so I assume that's going to occur on Monday when the House comes back, or whatever day it comes back, in a quorum situation. So I assume you've secured agreements with the other parties to pass that expeditiously, and a supply bill.
We're in discussion with the opposition parties today. Minister Farnworth will have more to say about that tomorrow, so I'll leave that to him. But you've captured it. We are engaged with the Green Party, with the BC Liberals, with the Speaker's office, in consultation with Dr. Henry. What's the best way for us to manage the affairs of the province in a way that ensures appropriate debate? You don't need 87 members of the legislature, as you know, to pass a piece of legislation, and to have the appropriate oversight and scrutiny that the legislation would need to give people confidence that we're working together on these issues. The substance of the bill is in discussion as well, so details will have to wait. But we believe that there's a way forward. We've had preliminary support from the opposition on that, and I expect that tomorrow Michael will have something to say about that.
Mary.
Question for Rob Fleming is, with students looking at the foreseeable future, and I know things are still in flux, but what is the likelihood that it could transition for most students to online learning? And you talked about grade 12 students as well too. What are the possibility for students, graduation ceremonies, that sort of thing, or is it too early for that?
I think it's a little early for that. We'll take that on advice, but what we have the school sector working on right now is a plan around continuous learning, understanding that the suspension of in-class instruction could go on for some time in BC, and that'll look different for primary, intermediate, and secondary school students. A lot of classroom teachers contact regularly with parents and students via email already. We have 57 online learning providers in BC. Right now, the entire BC curriculum is available online, so it may be a combination of new types of classroom-based instruction that's electronic, organized through individual teachers. It may be transferring students into registering into online courses. We'll determine that as we go forward. We've got the sector putting their minds to it right now, and we'll have more to say about that later.
Fawn.
Minister James, there's about $1 billion in the contingency fund for the fiscal year ending March 31st, and another $1 billion or so in the year starting April 1st. You got any sense yet of how much of that you're going to have to tap to deal with all this, or is it too soon to say?
I think it's too soon to have specifics. I think there is no question it's going to have a big impact. It is likely we will have a deficit. I think there's no question about that. But the specifics and the numbers, it's just too early. It's changing every day. I think that'll be an economic update that I will need to bring forward. I'll be updating people as we go along, but it's a little too early to get into the specifics, but no question it's had an impact.
Lisa.
Wondering about daycares. We're talking about schools being pulled out. What are people going to do with their kids? Are they still going to go to daycare?
Well, firstly, again, we're taking direction from Dr. Henry on these matters, and she's made it clear to us that healthcare providers and other essential personnel within the economy, within the infrastructure that we need to have in place to provide services to people, need access to childcare. And at this time, childcare will remain available. Parents should be take comfort in that, but it is an evolving situation, and should the public health officials give us different direction, we'll be taking different actions. But at this time, again, schools are not boarded up. Instruction in classrooms is not taking place. That means that those buildings are available, and Rob will be working, or Minister Fleming rather, will be working with Dr. Henry and other providers to make sure that we're providing the services that they need. But at this time, it's business as usual, but families should be ready and trying to make plans for changes immediately if we get new information.
Binder.
I was going to ask about daycares, but I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the essential services, and for people who have school-aged children, what does that look like? And for others, could there be some financial relief for parents coming as well who might need to hire a babysitter or something? I don't know.
Well, I'll let Rob step in as well, but just preliminary, if we're looking at the changes we'd like to see in the Employment Insurance Act that will capture all citizens, not just those who are paying into the system, that would allow families to care for their children, self-isolate as required, and not lose revenues for their home budgets. But those are issues that are not yet certain, and so we don't want to assume that the federal government will follow through on these things. We have to see what they put forward, and then we'll see where we can work with the tools that Minister James has at her disposal to fill those gaps. But at the present time, certainly subsidies that families and daycare providers, childcare providers anticipate will still be flowing. No change there. People should not be concerned that they'll lose their space. We're going to make sure that everyone who has a space continues to have a space, as long as it's still consistent with the direction we're getting from public health officials. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Rob? Or?
We've been asked to make plans by Dr. Bonnie Henry on how we can effect a suspension of in-class instruction for the school system writ large, but not collapse the healthcare system of those who are working to save lives, providing key frontline services, who would otherwise have to stay home because they have young children. So we're working with the sector to see what that looks like. It would obviously be radically different than what a typical school looks like, but it could be in use practicing safe social distancing and providing some kind of limited school instruction that will allow those frontline workers to continue serving British Columbians.
We're going to go to Shannon next.
So Ontario has gone ahead and said that it is going to not issue any eviction notices going forward, and it is not going to enforce any eviction notices that have currently been issued. Not a lot of details yet on the support people can expect from the province or the federal government. Is BC considering taking that step to make sure that people who might be facing financial difficulties right now can stay in their homes?
That's very much one of the many issues that we have on our plate at the present time. I have asked Spencer Chandra-Herbert, the member for the Vancouver West End, who was the co-chair of the Renters Task Force, to revitalize his operation, to virtually have a discussion with the various stakeholders that participated in that very exhaustive review to get feedback on how people are reacting and responding to the current situation. I think when we get that information, Spencer will be delivering it to our cabinet committee on this issue, and we'll be looking at what steps we can take. But it's not just individual renters, of course, that are concerned. Businesses who have rents to pay and no customers coming in the door are equally concerned. So we have a whole range of issues that are piling up, and we're looking at what mechanisms we have to assist those individuals. But again, I want to stress this, as I did on Friday. The objective of our government is to provide services for people. That's why we're here. We do not want to come up short. I've made that clear to Deputy Prime Minister Freeland in our daily discussions that we all need to work on this together. Minister Robinson is dealing with the Union of BC municipalities as well as large municipalities on what are their needs going forward. Minister Shane Simpson on social development and poverty reduction. Of course, we're very, very concerned that at-risk populations don't have the same access to the types of services that many of us are talking about here, and we need to make sure we're taking extraordinary measures in those areas as well. So it is, again, a cross-government approach. Today we wanted to focus on people's concerns about their paychecks. Rent is a key part of that, of course, and the cost of living generally. How am I going to meet those needs when I don't see dollars coming in the door? So what role does hydro play with respect to hydro bills? What role do other government agencies play to ensure we can get dollars to people quickly? And that's been a common theme. I can't speak specifically to Premier Ford's proposals, but I did have a lengthy discussion with Premier Kenny yesterday about Alberta's approach, and we are very similar in our requests of the federal government. And again, it's with a positive foot forward to try and find ways that we can all come out of this better off than we went in. I have not had a chance to talk to Premier Ford, but it's on my list of things to do today.